What up, everybody? It's Scuffy coming at you from the same place that I came at you last time, and the time before that, and maybe the time before that. Today, or this little blurb here, we're going to be talking about the perfection mechanic. This is more of a video aimed for new players or new players joining the game from the stream community, PC Steam community, if you were. So let's get into legions. First off, let's talk about the move the camera over a little bit. There you go. That's a little bit better. Let's talk about the perfection mechanic. The perfection mechanic is, and I've talked about this, if you're really kind of curious a little bit more in detail as far as the whole pool, the Emperor's Children are obviously, they thrive, they deal on perfection. And it's kind of a mechanic that is exclusive to them and their faction. If you want a full breakdown as far as the Emperor's Children, I urge you to take a look at the card-by-card breakthrough that I've got for the Emperor's Children. But the perfection mechanic is very basic. Perfection is, it does an additional thing if playing this card spends all remaining energy, which is very easy to do. A lot of the I'm just going to be taking out a bunch of cards here just to kind of load up on perfection, and we'll run ourselves a little demo game against the bot. We'll want that. Idachin, yeah, that's a good one. Longinus, draw some cards. Yes, jet bikes actually out of a card. Nosebring. There are a lot of cards that have perfection. There are, it's that little icon there that you see with a nice little Emperor's Children, Chalice and Wings. It's not going to be too difficult for us to actually show you how those operate and what they do. Some things are as simple as a little kicker, extra damage, gaining an extra stat such as Drop Pod or Unstoppable. Some of them are a little bit more important. For instance, Agnemon, massive damage to the Warlord. Pride of the Emperor is your closing cost epic. Now, this is a big card for the Emperor's Children. This is how they close games. This card itself has seen some revision very recently, but the perfection returns it to your deck. It used to return it to your hand. However, it basically gives you the opportunity to use that card yet again. So, let's see here. That's about all the perfection cards we've got. Hang on, there's probably a little bit of perfections. Flight has got perfection on it. And some of them are more situational than others. Oh, I've got a full deck. All right. Well, let's go into it. Let's just go ahead and throw ourselves at a bot, because we're just showing you how this works, how perfection works. It's really easy. Saul is going to make it easier for me. Now, Saul is normally your entry level Emperor's Children Warlord. So if you've got him, he's actually a very solid Warlord, even at higher levels. As your Emperor's Children card pool grows, he allows you to use his ability, and the next card this turn costs one less, which is great because I want to spend to 0 to get this perfection. Now, here's a basic one here: perfection, gain unstoppable. Normally it's a 4-3. I'm going to bring him in, and now he's a 4-3 unstoppable. That's as simple as that. It's nothing super spectacular. You get a little bit of extra flashy animation, but it does a little tad extra. Now, for instance, here, if I play this guy by himself, he's a 2-2. That's all I'm going to get. But if I play him with perfection, I'm going to draw myself a card. Here's what I want to do, is this Meisler jet bikes. These guys are rare. They gain +2 +0 until the end of turn. So they went from a 3-3 to a 5-3 for this turn. That'll work for me. And then they go back to a 3-3. Normally they would just be a 3-3, but because of that perfection, they get a little bit extra damage. Most of the perfections revolve around, this will just give me some extra cards, revolve around gaining an additional ability. For instance, Odovacar gains frontline. The Severan squad gains +1/+1, so it's actually a stat boost. Then you've got a few such as Agneman, which does direct damage to the enemy warlord. It's very powerful. You've got Perfection's Flight, which is a tactic. You destroy an enemy troop, and then if you happen to have played it with your full energy, you're drawing yourself a card. So let's see here. Let's do this. Let's go to use Tarvitz's ability, and you can generally, you're only going to be able to use one perfection a turn. Now that is the way that works. There are, it's very possible if you have a card that costs 0, or you have a way to regain energy. There's, for instance, the Hold at All Costs, which is a rare tactic. That's a way for them to gain energy. 2, 4, 6. Ooh, yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it this way. That's a big beefy guy. What does his backlash do? I don't ever see this guy. Deal 2 damage to all units. Okay. I'm gonna drop this because this is the clincher. Unbreakable Focus gives my troops +1/+1, but Perfection gives them +1/+1 additional. So these guys who are 2/2s, 3/2s came out, and now they're 4/4s, 5/5s. And that's going to be nice enough for me just to lock down some damage. So again, you're generally going to capstone your turn with Perfection, and get the most out of it. Now, how do you deal with Perfection? How do you anticipate Perfection? How do you shut down your opponent's Perfection? You really can't. The best that you can do is anticipate what your opponent has or what they're going to play. For instance, here, let's just go ahead and throw out Theodore here. For instance, the fact that you know that your opponent's playing Emperor's Children. Look at the card pool for Emperor's Children. What do their 2 costs perfections normally do? What do the normal decks include? Agneman is not quite a 100% stable, but is a large card that appears in many Emperor's Children's decks. So when they're at turn 6, and I put that out early, but I'm going to jam Perfection, jam. And it has since been changed that jam will actually work off of the backlash. We're going to end this game up here. But the way that works is, if you're at turn 6, or if your opponent is Assault Tarvitz and you know at turn 5, you have to anticipate that, okay, they might play that card. They might play Agneman. They might, if you're at turn 2, it's going to kind of be early enough to tell how are they going to throw out, what are they going to throw out? Are they going to be throwing out Reithorn Platoon to draw cards? Are they going to be throwing out Severan squads? If they drop a troop on turn 2, it's very possible that turn 3, if you don't kill that troop, they can pump that troop up with an Unbreakable Focus, and now your 2/2 that you didn't kill is a 4/4, or that Severan squad, which became a 3/3, is now a 5/5. So if you can, you want to deal with it before that becomes a problem. Dealing with Tarvitz specifically, he kind of makes that a little bit different. Like you saw, I was able to pull out some additional cards and play Unbreakable Focus on a turn where normally it would be harder to make that fit with the cost reduction. That actually made it work. Things like Unstoppable, there's nothing much that you can do or deal with that. These guys here, these guys are they didn't come up, but they're kind of a staple. On turn 4, anticipate that these guys might stun something, just in the same degree that on turn 4 you might actually end up eating 5 damage from a jet bike. Or if your opponent has 8 energy, then you're susceptible to a combination of several troops or tactic, ending with some sort of perfection, whether that's as simple as dropping a 2-cost character and then a 6-cost Agneman, or several characters as you saw, and the perfection boost with the Unbreakable Focus. Perfection is a very basic, in terms of how it works, it's a very simple mechanic, and it does nothing directly to affect your opponent. It enhances everything that you do yourself. If you're playing against the Emperor's Children, and there's so many of the Emperor's Children cards include perfection that are just built-in staples. You just have to know how best to operate. If you're able to manipulate your opponent's energy flow, whether that's through cards such as Shield Generator, which increases their tactics by 2 cost, or cards such as, if you're like going into specifics, the Alpha Legion has got a card. Sorry, the Alpha Legion's got their troop here, their Saboteur Squad, which can actually drop your opponent's energy by 1, which actually throws them behind the curve. You can kind of delay or cause some sort of chaos to how your opponent plays perfection. In addition to that, some cards kind of work against themselves at some point in time. For the Emperor, for instance, reduce the cost of all cards in your hand by 1, which is great, but that also sometimes makes it harder for your opponent to play perfection. And to go with that, a good majority of the perfection cards are even numbered, which means that odds are high that on the even numbered turns, a perfection troop will hit the table and cause whatever chaos that it's destined to bring. There are some cards that are 1 cost that your opponent can include in their deck to kind of even that out and allow for a 2-card combo. There are some cards that have got abilities that cost energy, which allow your opponent to, so like for instance, out of a card. Now I didn't use his ability, but I could use his ability for that 1 energy to gain a buff, and then in addition to that, that allows me to pull out perfection triggers. So there's things that they have to their disposal, but it all comes down to energy. So if you're able to thwart their energy, if they've got some cards would have upkeep, such as demons, their energy pool is limited. There's a lot of ways. I can't say there's a lot of ways. There's a few ways to really throw some wrenches into their sockets. And again, they're only going to be able to get off generally 95% of the time 1 perfection effect a turn. So you just have to think, okay, what should I be expecting? They have 5 energy. On their turn, they're going to have 6 energy. What should I be expecting? How many cards do they have in their hand? How much can they unload on me? There's a lot of options in there. It depends on the deck. It depends on the skill level and your opponent's level of card collection. But knowing that is always a good factor in terms of how best to deal and make the smartest play possible. And then to kind of go with that, you know what else always works? If you've got a troop that's been buffed by perfection, that perhaps has received some unbreakable focus bonuses and buffs, and I'm going to be bringing this up in a ton of videos, but good old sabotage, that works on everything except for stealth. Jam a troop. Okay, that's great. You are gained +1/+1. You gained frontline. Jam. Jam. Shield. Jam. +2/+2. Jam. Don't care. That won't do anything to stop the rally effects, such as direct damage or the fast from your troops, like the Myslar jet bikes. But it's a pretty good card to consider including, and if you have access to that early in the game, that's a good rare to have in your deck. Always useful in a pinch. So anyways, that's been a little short video talking about perfection. The next one we'll look at probably here will probably be good old Berserk and Rage. They kind of go hand in hand. Yeah, we'll talk about Berserk and Rage together. All right, that's it. Thank you. Keep playing Legions, and look forward to joining the community. Hope you learned something here. All right, bye.